Hello, very neat. So I've just had a discussion with other occultist, and it has reminded me of a topic that is discussed far too little within the occult community, and that is fact-checking your information. Now, this fellow, I'm not going to say his name because I generally don't do that unless I have gotten the explicit permission to use the names in the video. And basically, he claims to be the reincarnation of King Solomon. He also claims that King Solomon is an otherkin, and that his middle name is James. So his name was something Saval James Solomon. Well, I told him, do you have any proof of this claim? Because he claims this as the absolute truth. And I said, do you have any proof of this claim? Oh no, because it had been suppressed in the history books. And I told him, I see one problem, and that is that the name James is English. It was not used in King Solomon's time. It has developed from Jacob, and yes, there is a Jewish word for Jacob that could have been used at that time. But not James. But oh no, James was used all the way back to Atlantean times. And then I go, the problem with this is two things. One is that it says, oh no, you should absolutely believe this 100% because I say so. Me, random person on the internet that you have known for over 5 minutes, you should absolutely believe this because after all there's a lot of occult knowledge that has been suppressed from the history books. Yes, it is. It would surprise me greatly if there's not a load of occult knowledge that has not been put into history books and has been suppressed from the public. However, even if you believe that, that isn't a reason to immediately, uncritically believe everything you're told. I mean, I could make up any story and then say, but of course you have to believe it. After all, there's a lot of information that's been withheld from the history books. And one of the reasons we have to authenticate information is fact check. And for example, if you have a vision or you have a sense of an earlier life or anything like that, and that does not mix with or it doesn't match with historical fact, then that puts a pretty big black mark on your information. For example, let's say I have a vision that I have been a member of an ancient goddess cult, and that this goddess cult has existed through history, and I see myself in time of ancient Greece hunting with other priestesses, and I use a particular bow, and I search up that bow, and I figure out that it was never used in antiquity, it wasn't invented before the Middle Ages, then that is a good indication that the vision is wrong, or at least a big part of it is wrong. Now, of course, it could be that my mind, who has read about these bows at some other point, just put them in there, and that a lot of the information is true, but then I do not have any proof of it. However, if I figure out that a lot of this information actually fit historical facts, that's another matter. Then I'm suddenly have some more proof that my vision is correct. So when you hear that a historical character is named Saval or whatever it was, James Solomon, and you read up about the name James and figure out that it's an English name. They did not speak English at the time of King Solomon. and that the name James didn't exist at the time, then the logical thing would be to question your vision, not to say, oh no, but it was probably suppressed. Motivation. I mean, suppressing occult knowledge, there's a motivation there, both to keep yourself safe from prosecution and to keep uninitiated from harming themselves on potentially dangerous methods, and also to make sure that the method is only spread to those you deem worthy. However, why suppress a name? Why should a name with an English sound suddenly appear thousands of years before the language was invented be used on this one person only and leave no trace for those that study the development of names? Just used on one person, then disappearing, then being suppressed, that you have that name, it doesn't make sense. And that's when you start to question a vision. And far too few people do this. And it's sad, because what it results in is that when people like this claim that, oh, but this is what I feel, this is what I know, and present this as ultimate truth, it makes the entire field of the occult seems silly. Because anyone who are able to do a bit of critical thinking will know that my bullshit detector is going off here. And does that mean that it couldn't be true? Because that was also something he said to me, but you can't just say that it couldn't be true. No, of course. I say about no information that it couldn't possibly be true. I'm saying it's not very likely. It's the same as with those that claim that Wicca, in the shape and form that it has today, has existed for thousands of years. Could it possibly be true? Yes. Is it very likely to be true? No. And that's again where fact-checking comes into the picture. Let me take a little story from myself. When my grandfather died, I had a dream that said, where I dreamt about him, and I felt very close to him, and something said, a clear voice said, he's a Hishyan. And at that point, I had never heard that word. It was a completely unknown word to me. So I researched the word and found that Yishan has two meanings. One is that it is a Taoist holy immortal, but it's also used generally for spirits and supernatural creatures within Taoist mythology. So basically it says he's a spirit. And therefore I put more stock in that he actually is a spirit watching over me. Because it is a name I have never heard before that turns out to actually be a real name. Of course, could I have heard it somewhere and forgot about it? Yes, that's possible. And that is why you don't make it. This is the absolute 100% truth, and you're an idiot for not believing it statement. Also, can unsubstantiated claim basically information be useful? Yes, of course it can. For example, I have a spirit guide. He calls himself Carl, and I assume it's probably a short for Charles. And Carl claims that he died in the somewhere in the 1200s, and that he was a healer, and that he caught plague he was trying to heal people from. And I can't substantiate it. All I have is the name Charles and a rough description of him, and a feeling that he walked around in robes. He could have been a monk healer, something like that. I can say that plagues were pretty rampant at the time. It's not a claim that's impossible, but I can't substantiate it. But Carl is very important to me. And even if I cannot 100% prove that he is real and not a figment of my imagination in some way, I move on from what I feel is most likely to be true, and that he is a real entity. However, I would not present it as absolute truth when speaking with someone else. Another piece of information I got from a psychic once was that she looked at earlier lives. And one of the lives, she said, you have been a magician, a male magician in probably the Middle Ages, who lived to be 300 years old. And I can not substantiate it in any way. It's interesting because I'm a transhumanist and an immortalist, and these are the things that interest me very much. But I cannot do anything else but file that away in the interesting bit of information folder. And yeah. So yeah, basically fact checking is when you go to what you can check and see, does anything of this actually make sense? Like, for example, my clearest past life memory is of being a housewife, and I can describe the type of building I lived in. So I asked my mother, is this a real type of building? And she said, yeah, there was a lot of them around the 40s and 50s. And that's about the time I feel that this woman lived. So that substantiates it. Does it conclusively prove it? No, but it substantiates it. However, like I said, if you have a past life memory and it doesn't, and basically the clothes people wear, the names people have, the language people speak, the architecture around you, if these things doesn't fit with what history knows, then it's a larger chance that your vision is wrong, no matter how real it feels, than that every one of these fields have somehow been suppressed. Now, does that mean that, for example, this otherkin gentleman, that he can have no use of these? No, of course not. And it could be that that he has been an entity from another dimension where English could have developed sooner. It could be that he got the information because he needed that information at that point in time. However, is it likely that he is the historical figure, King Solomon, reincarnated, and that King Solomon had the middle name James? No. Could it possibly be that the name has somehow suddenly sprung up in a language that doesn't support it and never been used again and so on? Yeah, it's possible, but it isn't very likely. So, what should you do when you get occult information? Well, you should try to note down as much information as you could possibly have, even about the smallest of details. For example, the trim on the dresses that you see around you can be a way to substantiate it, because then you can go back and look at history books who, okay, did women in that area wear that kinds of trim on their dresses, for example. Basically, the more you can fit it with historical facts, the more you can substantiate it. Now, can everything be substantiated? No. But you can try. And also, I think that if you make an unsubstantiated claim, then sort of almost getting insulted when people say, okay, that's interesting information. Do you have any proof? And I can't really just believe this without proof. Now, sometimes people might say that, yeah, but you've criticized atheists for ragging on people that have religious faith. Isn't this exactly the same? No, it isn't. Because I've never criticized atheists for saying, do you have any proof for your claim? For if not, I can't believe you. Because that's fine, by all means. What I criticize atheists for is saying, then your claim cannot possibly be true and you're insane and you shouldn't be allowed to believe what you believe. That's something very different. I don't see any problem that the person I talked with have this belief. Perhaps it's just the kind of belief he needs to develop spiritually. Perhaps this belief of his is true in another reality. And there's so many things that could mean that this is a real experience for him. What I have a problem with is when people like that try to make you believe and don't understand why on earth you wouldn't just accept his claim. And yeah. So, like I told him, James is an English name. There was no English. Oh no, it goes back to Atlantis, and I speak Atlantean. Great. Then give me a sample of this language that I can give to a linguist. Because what a linguist can do is to see if a language is natural or constructed. For example, if you speak Klingon, a linguist will be able to see that this is probably a constructed language because it doesn't have enough words. It doesn't seem like something that has naturally developed over time. And I don't necessarily need to understand the language to do that. If he gives, let's say, just make a YouTube video of a half an hour of him just talking this language. If he speaks it fluently, that shouldn't be a problem. Then a linguist will be able to say either, oh, amazing, this is a language we have never heard of, clearly it's true, and that would again give credence to his claim. Or they would say, no, this sounds pretty constructed. And yeah, here's the point. We are occultists, but that doesn't mean we have to sign our brains out at the door. We can still think critically. Yes, there are quite a few things within the occult that you can't prove. You have no other choice but to accept or not. And I have chosen to accept quite a few things that I have no proof for, because they feel right to me. But I cannot then make the claim that they are the ultimate truth. And also, even with those things that I just accept, I feel stronger with them if I can substantiate it in any way. And fact-checking around it and seeing if it fits in with other areas of knowledge. That is a good idea. And please, don't make that excuse with, oh, but you should immediately believe this because there are hidden knowledge. Yes, of course there's hidden knowledge. However, if that hidden knowledge doesn't fit anything with the time period it's supposed to be from, then chances are it's not so hidden, it's made up. Because even if the knowledge is hidden, the historical, society, language, and so on contexts usually are not. So, yeah, I can't say it enough. It's important for occultists to fact check our information, even information that feels very strong. And if you are not able to fact check it, it doesn't mean that you have to just abandon the information. But you cannot expect others to believe if you cannot offer any kind of proof. You can say the information feels right for me, so I will accept it for myself. You cannot expect others to just accept information there are no proof and no substantiation for, and that there in fact exists a lot of proof to indicate that it is not so. The occult is a way to seek knowledge, and we should seek it and not just accept any claim. That is what I wanted to say. Have a great day. Blessed be.